Welcome to Borrowed Time. I'm Janine Lang, startup coach, author, and entrepreneur. Now, in this podcast series, we are focused on helping startups save months, if not years, on their startup journey. Knowing that we learn more from our failures than we do our successes, I'm interviewing successful business owners and asking them what are some of the biggest mistakes they've made? What did it cost them in terms of time? And most importantly, what are some of the lessons that they gleaned from that? Because, of course, they needed to learn those lessons the hard way. And I'm hoping that those lessons are going to save our listeners valuable time. Now, our guest today is Michelle Lyman, independent brand partner. Thank you so much, Michelle, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about this topic and what you're doing on this podcast. So this is very exciting for me.
Well, thank you for that. So, why don't you start, Michelle? Just tell us a little bit about your role.
Yes, absolutely. So I got involved in this business because I found some phenomenal clean products that a friend of mine shared with me that I loved so much that I couldn't help myself but be able to share and bring that value to somebody else. So I work in the clean skincare and wellness space. And I get to, just like this podcast, and you get to save other people time, I get to save people time in navigating the overwhelm of thousands of possible product options, and I can help them find the solutions a lot faster than it took me to find the right products that work.
Terrific. So, I'm going to ask you what your inspiration was for starting this business, but I think you've already hinted at it already.
Yes, I have hinted at it a little bit. So I started using products because a friend shared it with me. And the first product was a brain health supplement that, who doesn't need brain health, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I started with that. I kept trying more and more products. And then over time, I'm like, I could earn my product for free. So who wouldn't want to get their product for free and also be able to bring that to somebody else? So I not only get my product for free, but I can help others get their product for free as well.
Right. And there's such a tremendous gift in that because as a user yourself, boy, it's
Mhm.
easy to put yourself in the shoes of a customer because
Exactly.
that's you.
Right, exactly. You become a product of the product and people start noticing. It's like, oh, what did you do with your skin? Like, what are you using? So it's kind of a natural, organic conversation. And I know for myself, it just took me so long to find products that I could feel good about based on the ingredients that also worked. I have a background in engineering, so I care about science, I care about innovation. And then when I found these, it kind of hit all those boxes that I was really struggling to find.
Right. Well, it's easy to find a passion in that business when you're passionate
Absolutely.
about the products personally. That's terrific.
Yes, absolutely.
Great, great. Well, I can certainly understand why you've chosen to do what it is you're doing. And I'm sure that there's some difficult, challenging days. So, looking
Absolutely.
back at the experience, Michelle, and how long has it been that you've been involved with this?
Almost 5 years.
5 years, yeah. So, if you can think back to maybe even some of those earlier days, what is the biggest mistake that you would say you made?
Well, one or two come to mind for sure. There's, like you said, there's always something when you're, especially for me, this was kind of my first entrepreneurship kind of venture. So I didn't really know what I was doing. I knew a lot about the products, but I didn't know what I was doing on the other stuff. So I would say that one of the biggest things was oversharing, kind of word vomiting on people. It's like you
Right.
get so excited that you want everybody in the universe to be as excited as you. So I found myself going back and going back and going back and realizing like they just don't want to hear from me. Like, so you just got to
Yeah.
know, read the audience, know when is enough, and how to kind of approach some of those conversations. And also, sort of related to that is we get a lot of great guidance and training and
Right.
and help and support, which is another reason why I love this business. But what I realized is what works for somebody, and they say, "Oh, I did this, go do that," and then you do it and it doesn't land. It's like, okay, they got
Mm,
success. Why didn't I get success? So that was a huge learning and mistake, I feel like, or realization, I guess, that
right.
it's to me, it's like how you do the how. It's like, okay, that's great information. And now what I've learned is that I can take in that information and get these ideas and apply it to how that's going to work and feel good to me. So I found myself doing things that it's like, I don't know that that feels that good to do, but I'm like, all right,
Right.
well, I'm coachable. I'm going to do what I'm told. And then, it falls flat. So I would say those combination of things, they're somewhat related, were, tripped me up in the beginning.
Yes, there's so much to learn absolutely in the beginning. And I took a course, I remember, so I appreciate what you just described. I think that individual said we show up and throw up. I mean, it really takes a while, and it's your enthusiasm, right?
Right.
But it comes across as selling, which is so funny because a lot of people struggle with, I can't sell. But when they talk so passionately about the product, especially as a user, then it comes across as selling, and it can come
Right.
across as a hard sell. So is there
Right.
one instance in particular that stands out that it was really a lesson for you?
Yeah, I feel like what ended up happening and still comes up in the back of my mind every once in a while is that by doing that, I felt like I damaged certain relationships.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the consequence of like going at it from that level of enthusiasm. And they're just like, well, you just, enough, So I feel
Yes.
like the real lesson is, I is to keep those connections and just be mindful of that, and meeting people where they're at.
For sure. And I'm glad this point came up because when people are learning to sell, they hear that the greatest asset is their personal network. But I know so many startups struggle with, how do you bridge that gap? How do you leverage that wonderful asset, especially when we're starting a business a little bit later in life? And so you've got this wonderful network, but how do you read the audience, and how do you know when it's okay to have that conversation and then turn that into a business conversation, right?
Right. Yeah, that is a great point. So that is something that I've learned over time. So being able to organically, when you have a conversation, you start listening for some of the things that they might, you know, be needing, and then just have an organic flow of conversation versus just saying you have to try this, that kind of thing. And also in this type of industry that I'm in and the type of business, sometimes your closest friends and family are going to say no and be like, go, I want nothing to do with that. And I still have that. I have some people who supported me in the beginning of my business, family members or whatever, that don't anymore. Like, so it sometimes I feel like it's actually easier to have a conversation that you with somebody you don't know as well. If you learn to take the cues, you learn to be a little bit more gentle with the conversation and listening to what their needs are. I mean, that's the key, is really listening. What are people looking for? And then you might say, well, I might be able to help with that. Are you open to hearing more? And just, that kind of thing. That's what I've
Yeah, I love those examples. You really made it real. You asked for permission before you
yeah.
sort of engaged in your enthusiasm, and you're absolutely right. Sometimes it is a little bit easier with a complete stranger than family. And I found for myself just keeping in mind, they're saying no, as you so appropriately put it, they're saying no to the product. They're not saying no to you and the
Right.
relationship. So there's nothing to take
Exactly.
personally here. So
Right.
distancing yourself from that is important in that situation as well, right?
Right. Yeah. And learning to separate from the result. And I think in any business, mine or otherwise, you have to get used to the no's because,
Yes.
and sometimes it's a no, not right now. I've had that as well, where I've first mentioned what I do, I don't know, almost 2 years ago, and somebody just now says, "Oh, remember you were talking about, pick something." and then they want to hear more. So it's really about meeting people where they're at and knowing how to follow up in a, in a, what's the right word? In being mindful, I guess, in a mindful, respectful way as a friend, don't be, and not shove it down their throat, I guess.
Absolutely. Great advice. You've let them know, hey, this is the product that I represent, and they know that you have tried that yourself. So unless they're saying, wow, like I really don't know what I'm right, what to do about this problem, or I've got this dry
Mhm.
skin, then if you're not hearing a problem, then you're not going into selling mode.
Right. Right. Yeah. You just kind of organically see where the conversation takes you.
Right. Exactly. That's great advice. That's great advice. So that big mistake for sure. And what would you say, just looking back on that, that it cost you in terms of time?
Yeah, I feel like it cost me the first probably 2-ish years, give or take a little bit. It took a little while to kind of get the hang of get the hang of it. I tend to be a chatty person anyways and tend to be very enthusiastic. So what I also love about what I do is the personal development. So I've done a lot of personal development over the last couple of years. So you start to refine and hone in on some of those things. But yeah, I would say probably the first couple of years.
Yeah. And so I love your honesty about that because that's a significant time. And when you're talking about that, I really equate it as learning to sell. And it isn't an overnight skill. It really is something that takes
Mhm.
some experience, some hard
Mhm.
lumps along the way, but it's so important. And I think the path that you've gone, it's such a popular one. I know
Mhm.
so many people that are starting online product businesses because it's easy to stand up. And the most important thing I think
Mhm.
you've mentioned already is the fact that it has to be a product you're passionate about, that you believe in yourself. Do you
Mhm.
think you could sell any product?
No, absolutely not. No, I feel like you're absolutely right in the way that you describe that. And oftentimes that is the reason, or most of the time, that's the reason that people start the business is because a product made such a difference in their life in some way or another, whether it's health or, skin transformation, but you've had a transformation of some kind, and now you need to share it with the world. And I think a lot of businesses, not just in the online space, end up going in that direction. It's because of all the lessons that you've learned or all the transformations that you've had. Now you want to bring that to the world. So I feel like it's similar here. And that you have to be passionate about what you're selling, whether it's
Right.
product versus anything. Or
Exactly.
people know if you're not, like you can tell. And if you're not, you wouldn't be using the products.
Ex-
So, I think that makes
Exactly.
a big difference.
For sure. And you already described it. I mean, you really have to be authentically
Mhm.
yourself. And clearly, the way you've described it, your values, wellness
Mhm.
is important to you, personal development and growth is important to you. So,
Exactly.
having a wellness business where you've got an opportunity to transforming lives, I can see that's just a great fit for you for sure. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
Absolutely.
So thank you for your honesty and sharing some of those successes. Now, just for some balance, let's give you an opportunity to share. What would you say is your greatest success?
Oh, wow. My greatest success is earning 2 incentive trips so far. I just earned my second incentive trip to Mexico. It's a 5-day, 5-star resort for two, all expense paid trip that I earned through my business. I'm really proud of that. I'm especially proud of this trip compared to the last trip because this trip I earned in half the time.
Oh,
So I
congratulations.
know.
That is amazing. That
Yeah.
is amazing. So half the time. Wow, that's
Yep.
incredible. Like what kind of time
Yeah.
frame are we talking about here?
Yeah. So they give us 6 months to earn the trip, and I earned it in 3 months.
Oh my goodness. Wow, that's
Yeah, I
tremendous.
know. It was literally half, and the trip is scheduled for next February. So perfect time to be going to Mexico with
Oh,
all of my other friends who are in the business that I'm in with this company. the earning period's still going. I have no idea how many more people are going to be on that trip with us. So very exciting.
Yeah, that is tremendous. So how does something like that impact you?
Earning the trip, or
Yeah, the trip.
yeah, it just feels when you set a goal for yourself. And honestly, I didn't set a goal to earn the trip in half the time. I set a goal that I want to earn the trip,
Right.
and and then you do the activity to help you get there. But it's just like mind blowing. It's still kind of surreal. It's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like, it just feels, you feel really accomplished. You feel like all of that work that you've put in, and all of that development and growth that you've had has paid off. You
Yes,
basically you plant the seeds, and then you start to harvest, and it feels pretty amazing.
for sure. So much validation that you got from that, and so well deserved, well earned. Congratulations again. That's
Thank you.
amazing. So for the startups out there that
Mhm.
are just beginning their journey, what advice do you have?
If they're starting the business in, the type of business that I have, I would say the biggest advice would be to be open-minded and coachable. Leverage your support system, listen to what people are saying, but make sure it feels authentic and right for you. Because if you're getting that feeling that it just doesn't sit well, then there's a reason for that. So kind of listen to your gut and be coachable and leverage your support system.
Right. And what is the system? What type of support can you count on?
Yes, with my company, and I don't know about how other companies do it, but our support system is they give us simple tools on how to share and ways. So they give us a lot of materials, marketing materials and assets, but we have weekly training. So staying plugged in, we have weekly training. We have a simple, easy system that they train us on. And then you have all of the other, friends and other brand partners who are doing the same thing. We rely on each other. We reach out to, like, I have a network of people that I can reach out to at any time, and bounce ideas, brainstorm, figure things out together. So you're never doing this alone. Even though we're technically our own business, you have tons and tons of support.
Right. And that's such an important aspect is mentorship and
Right.
asking for help, right? Did you
Yes,
struggle with something
absolutely.
like that, Michelle?
I do not struggle with asking for help from my support team at all, because in our company, it doesn't matter if they're part of your direct line, your sidelines, anybody, and they've proven it. Like, they have integrity. There's lots of core values that align with mine. And so I don't feel uncomfortable at all ever to ask for help, either from my direct sponsor who introduced me in the first place, or anybody else on the team. Everybody's so welcoming and helpful, so why wouldn't I leverage it?
Yes, absolutely. Well, and it's just working smarter instead of harder. And when
Exactly.
you're yes, and when you've got it sounds like maybe a combination of both peers that you can bounce ideas off of, and maybe there are mentors that are perhaps more experienced than yourself that have that
Exactly.
advice that can really
Hmm.
help create those breakthroughs for you. So when you
Yeah.
reflect on that experience, because I have to go back to something you said earlier. How do you think you were able to achieve that goal, but in half the time? Why was that possible, Michelle?
That is a really good question. So I feel like, one, I've invested in a business coach. That's one. So I not only leverage the people within my company, I've realized what support I need outside of the company. So I feel like that was probably one of the biggest things, was investing in a business coach. She actually calls herself a business therapist, which I love, because it really is. It's about mindset. So I feel like by having the right support system behind that goal, and just being coachable, I think also it didn't hurt that we launched a brand new product that's kind of going viral. That could have been
Okay.
that could have been part of it, but I do believe a combination of those things, of just getting that momentum and behind the product launch with the right support.
Right. So it sounds like the coach that you're describing isn't one that helped with technical skills like product knowledge or
Right.
selling. It was a mindset coach. Is that fair?
More, yes, from a mindset beyond that. Like it's with her, like I've worked with other coaches. I've also learned a lot about my human design, which has helped me a lot. So learning, like understanding myself better, I think that was a big factor in my recent successes. But her approach is she's available to me anytime I need her. I need to bounce any kind of business question, how to approach this or that or whatever. And then she helps on the mindset piece around that, but it's a combination of like very practical, I need help with this thing, even if it's like social media content, like this is what I'm thinking of putting out there, what do you think? Like, so it's really that, but the product training and all of those specific company things I get from the free training that we have. This just goes beyond it, from helping on the leadership side or any of those other struggles that, you know, as entrepreneurs we experience.
I really like that. And we often need, as you're so appropriately pointing out, we need multiple mentors. So
Yeah.
whenever I coach my startup clients, I always say, identify all of those knowledge or skill gaps that you have. Like that is your starting point, and then
Hmm.
go find the coach or the mentor or whatever that
Right.
course is that you need that's going to help you address that. So
Exactly.
rarely is that ever the same person, right?
Right. And sometimes you might have more than one at the same time too. You know,
Yes.
depending on what you're working on. But yeah, for me, having the human design coaching and knowledge and learning, you know, and along the way, some of the types of support outside of my company that I've used is I worked with a mindset coach purely on a mindset level. And then I recently found my business therapist, who I absolutely love her. She's been instrumental in this. And I also worked with a social media and marketing person who understands human design. So you learn along the way of what your support team needs to look like, you know, who you
Yes.
need in that moment.
Right. And just going back to something that you said a little bit earlier, it starts with self-awareness because if you don't
Yes.
know what you need, right, then you won't ask for that help. And that was one of the key findings. I remember when there was a book, CEO Excellence, a bunch of McKinsey partners put that out, and they investigated the best performing people in that top job, which of course is a independent, it could be a company of one or a company of 10,000, any
Right.
top job person. And the advice really was to identify those gaps because the best are solid in a few areas and really exemplary in all the rest. So it was important to understand, what are you good at? What are you not good at? That self-awareness
Absolutely.
is so critical because
Hmm.
otherwise you're not going to address those spots. You're not going to reach out to the right resources and make sure that you're filling that.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. You have to have the awareness, and that's where being coachable comes in. You know,
Yeah,
you need to be able to be coachable
for sure. For sure.
and
Just keep
be able
in
to
mind.
learn from, they're all experiences. So every experience, even if it's, you know, call it a failure, as per this podcast is about, it's always a learning opportunity and a
Yeah.
new experience that you're experimenting with. And that's something that I've also come to learn. It's like, no, it's not necessarily a failure, it's a learning experience. So
I
now
love,
how to pivot the next time. And I do find that I like to, you know, experiment a little bit, and it's like, all right, well, I've tried this, but maybe something may come up and I'll be like, oh yeah, you know, let me try that and see how that works, if it feels authentic or and good to me to try. So you just got to try and pivot as needed.
right. Absolutely. Yeah, there were a lot of great skills in there that you just teased out. And certainly acknowledging or I'm going to say the reframing that a failure isn't a mistake. It's a learning opportunity. Hey, it's feedback. There's something I just need to, it's not working. I need to try something different, as you say.
Mhm.
And over time, you'll figure out what that looks like. So again, we
Exactly.
don't take those things personally. It's all part of that learning journey.
Exactly. It is a journey. Starting a business in any capacity is a journey. And
Yes.
a lot of learning, a lot of growth, a lot of fun and perseverance, all the things.
Yeah, you've got such a terrific attitude for sure. I can see why you're going to be in Mexico very soon. That's awesome
Mhm.
news for sure. Any other final advice for our listeners out there?
I think we've covered a lot. I hope that the listeners find this to be helpful information, and that we can help them get there faster. Just like in
Yeah,
my business, I can help people get to their transformation faster because of all the learnings that I've had. All of
absolutely.
that that pile of products that you have in your drawer that you tried and didn't work. I can help you have fewer of those.
We all have that pile for sure.
Right? The junk drawer.
Yes, absolutely. Well, yeah, you've just absolutely given us so many nuggets and just that conversation around selling and mentoring in particular, I think are just huge, huge value that you've delivered. So thank you so much for joining me today. And Michelle, if people want to continue the conversation, how can they reach you?
Yeah, they can find me very easily on Facebook and Instagram. I go by Michelle Lyman. So if you search for that, my accounts are public, so you should be able to find me pretty easily. And that's Michelle with two L's. Or you can feel free to check out my website at Michelle Lyman. So it's MICHELLELYMAN .neora
Excellent. Great. Well, thank you so much again. It's just, I've learned a lot. And so thank you for your time. And it's been a pleasure.
Thank you. I'm so happy that we got to chat today.
Terrific. All right. Thanks, folks, and believe in you.